Hello everyone. Welcome to Recap Queen. In this video, we will explain Nesekoi. This film tells the story of a boy from a Yakuza clan who has to pretend to have a relationship with a daughter from another Yakuza gang. A problematic relationship eventually makes them fall in love with each other. Will they become a couple in the end? Let's find out in Nesekoi. Nesekoi begins by showing a boy talking to a girl. The boy then said they both promised that one day they would marry when they both reached adulthood. To express his seriousness, the boy gave the girl a necklace with a key pendant, and kept a locket in the shape of a lock that could only be opened with the key for himself. Years later, the boy named Ichijo Raku has grown up. Raku turns out to be from the Yakuza family of the Shuigumi faction. Unmitigated, he is a candidate for the leader of the Yakuza clan who will replace his father in the future. Although Raku is reluctant to accept the responsibility because he does not want to become a Yakuza that is synonymous with violence. In reality, Raku is a gentle and kind young man. One day, when Raku, who is a high school student, was about to walk towards the school building, he experienced an unexpected incident where a blonde girl suddenly kicked him until he fell. Suddenly this makes him very angry and they both get into conflict. The feud becomes more heated because the blonde girl, whose name is known to be Krisaki Chitoge, turns out to be a transfer student and will become Raku's classmate. Chitoge, who comes from New York, is used to being outspoken like a Westerner, and seems like a tomboy. Not only that, she turned out to have a fairly strong physique, even surpassing Raku, so she could easily knock him down with one attack. On the other hand, Raku turns out to have feelings for his classmate, Kisaki Onodera, a gentle and very feminine girl, but Raku never dared to say it. Raku hopes that Onodera is a girl who has a key necklace that becomes a partner of his locket. That night, Raku is informed by his father that the Shuigumi faction is involved in a heated feud with a large New York mafia organization called Beehive. Raku is then shown the state of several of his father's henchmen who were seriously injured when confronting members of the Beehive gang. His father later said that the only way to stop the feud between the Yakuza Shuigumi faction and the Beehive was with an arranged marriage. It turns out, behind Raku's back, his father has arranged an arranged marriage for him with the daughter of the gang leader Beehive, and if he refuses the match, there will be bloodshed. Raku, who couldn't do anything because his father had already set him up, could only accept his father's decision with resignation. However, how surprised he was when he found out that the girl he would be betrothed to was Chitoge, who always made trouble with him. On the other hand, Chitoge, who was as surprised as Raku, then asked to cancel the matchmaking. However, Chitoge's father and Raku's father still urged the two to have a love affair even though pretending, for the sake of the peace of the two families. Finally, Raku and Chitoge are forced to pretend to be dating and show fake affection in front of everyone to avoid bloodshed. However, Chitoge's bodyguard, Claude, seemed to be sniffing something amiss between the two of them. The man kept an eye on Raku and Chitoge, who looked awkward on a date because the two were just pretending to be dating. Moreover, Raku and Chitoge have opposite personalities, which makes the situation even more awkward. The news of Raku and Chitoge's matchmaking has spread in the school. Their classmates seem to welcome the lovers happily, although Raku tried to dodge because he liked a girl in the class. On the other hand, Onodera looks disappointed because she actually secretly likes Raku. Meanwhile, Claude, who still suspects that Raku and Chitoge's romance is just a setup, decides to keep an eye on the two of them, even at school. Claude's presence at school makes Chitoge uncomfortable because it makes her shunned by her friends. At her old school, Chitoge also had no friends because Claude was always by her side, so that everyone avoided her for fear of Claude and her father's reputation. Raku, who saw this, looked sorry for Chitoge. He also experienced a similar incident when he was constantly escorted by Yakuza members ordered by his father. Raku then approached Chitoge, who was alone in her class, and gave her a notebook containing the identities and data of all her classmates. Raku then suggested to Chitoge that she should still try to be close friends with her classmates. Chitoge, who became excited again, immediately followed Raku's advice. However, unexpectedly, one of her friends dropped the student record book written by Chitoge and thought that she intended to kill them. The student immediately reported it to his other friends. However, Onodera, who immediately knew that Chitoge had written down the student data in that class to get to know her friends better, then invited Chitoge to come in and tell other things about her so that they could become close friends. Chitoge became very happy because she finally got a new friend. The next day, Raku's class has a new student named Marika Takabana, who is very beautiful. Marika is the daughter of a police commissioner who is also always under guard like Chitoge. However, what makes a scene is, Marika openly admits to being Raku's fiancé and will marry him. Suddenly this made Raku very surprised because he felt he didn't know Marika. However, when Raku accidentally saw the necklace chain worn by Marika, which he thought was a necklace with a key pendant, he suspected that Marika was the girl he made a promise to. Marika's presence immediately caught Claude's attention, who demanded an explanation from Raku. Raku denies that Marika is his girlfriend and insists that he doesn't know the girl. Not wanting to be found out that he was only pretending to be dating Chitoge, Raku then tried to convince Claude that he only loved Chitoge with very good acting. Chitoge herself thought that Raku had really fallen in love with her. For some reason, she actually felt happy, which implies that Chitoge also harbored the same feelings. Since that incident, Raku and Chitoge have become closer and rarely fight anymore. Until one day, Raku told about himself having made a wedding vow with a girl with a key necklace and locket as proof. Raku says that he will continue to look for the girl to fulfill his promise. Chitoge doesn't seem to think much about it, because she herself hasn't even thought about marriage, even though she's been betrothed to Raku. One day, Raku, Chitoge and Onodera wanted to study in a group at Raku's house. Chitoge came to Raku's house with the Beehive gang members who were neatly dressed in suits and ties. Meanwhile, at Raku's house, the Yakuza members of the Shuigumi faction are also getting ready to escort the future leader of the Yakuza clan. The situation becomes even more tense when Marika suddenly arrives with a special detachment from the police tasked with protecting the daughter of the police commissioner at the gangsters' headquarters. However, the Yakuza members lock Raku and Chitoge in a dark warehouse so they can make out and become more intimate. In fact, Chitoge was actually tormented there because she was afraid of the dark and just cowered in fear while hugging Raku. Instead of reassuring, Raku mocks Chitoge, who is tomboyish and pretentious but turns out to be afraid of the dark. The scene then moves to show Onodera, who is at her house. It was then revealed that Onodera was the girl who made a wedding vow with Raku, and had a necklace with a key pendant that she had kept in a box. Onodera deliberately never revealed this fact to Raku and only tried to make Raku remember her in various ways. One of them is to propose the theme of Romeo and Juliet in a drama performance that will be held at the school's cultural festival, because the story of Romeo and Juliet was mentioned by Raku when they made a promise as a child. The theme was immediately approved by the homeroom teacher and her classmates. Raku has immediately crowned Romeo, but the one chosen to be his Juliet was not Onodera, but Chitoge. Despite feeling disappointed, Onodera still supports Raku, and Chitoge is playing as Romeo and Juliet. Raku and his friends decided to do a rehearsal for the drama Romeo and Juliet at a villa located in the mountains. In the evening, after practice is over, Raku and his friends decide to join the game down the haunted house. Onodera felt that this was a good opportunity to get close to Raku since they were a pair in the game. However, unexpectedly, one of their friends said that Chitoge was lost in the forest, and they couldn't find her anywhere. Raku, who already knew that Chitoge was very afraid of the dark, then ran through the forest and finally managed to find her, who was cowering in fear. After that, Raku spent time with Chitoge while enjoying the view of the night sky. Chitoge, who secretly likes Raku, tries to express her feelings by saying that they really are lovers, but Raku, who is insensitive, instead mocks Chitoge and says that they are incompatible as lovers. Feeling sad that her love was one-sided, Chitoge then returned to the inn. But there, she again had to hold back her sadness when she saw Onodera wearing a necklace with a key pendant, which was exactly what Raku had told her about the girl who made a wedding vow with him. Chitoge, who finally realized that Raku and Onodera liked each other, finally decided to give in and resigned from her role as Juliet so that Onodera could replace her. Not only that, she also plans to return to New York soon. The next day, Raku and his friends did the last rehearsal before the performance. However, an incident occurred when Onodera suddenly fell and hit her foot on a ladder. Because of the bad incident that happened to her, Onodera could not continue practicing and was even forced to resign from the drama stage because of an injury to her leg, making it difficult for her to walk. Onodera then asked Chitoge to return to play Juliet because the performance day was almost come and they didn't have much time to look for another stunt double. Finally, Chitoge could not help but return to play Juliet. The day of the performance arrived, the entire Yakuza family of the Shuigumi faction and the Beehive gang came in droves to watch the drama stage played by Raku and Chitoge. Both looked nervous but still tried to show a perfect performance. At first, the stage went smoothly. However, unexpectedly, Chitoge expresses her own feelings so that the role she plays is very different from the character Juliet. On the other hand, Raku also expresses his feelings indirectly so that there is a quarrel between them. The audience, who thought it was all just an act, then cheered because they thought Chitoge and Raku's performance was brilliant on stage. Chitoge and Raku then realized their mistake and returned to the initial scenario by continuing to make out. Meanwhile, Onodera, who watched the performance from behind, couldn't help but feel jealous when she saw the young man she liked was making out with another girl. After the drama performance, Chitoge told Raku to meet Onodera on the school roof, and Chitoge would immediately leave for New York that night. Raku, who did not understand Chitoge's intentions, then headed to the school roof to prove her words. Sure enough, Onodera turned out to be there alone, as if she had been waiting for Raku. Onodera then reveals that she is the girl who made a wedding vow with Raku, and shows her a necklace with a lock that fits perfectly with Raku's locket. Onodera said that she still likes Raku until now. Raku is very happy because he finally gets to meet the girl he once made a promise to and thanks Onodera for still liking him until now. However, Raku had to reject Onodera because now he had fallen in love with Chitoge and apologized for it. Mercifully, Onodera accepts Raku's decision because the most important thing for her is to express the truth and her feelings directly to Raku, and only wishes for Raku's happiness. After realizing that he only loves Chitoge, Raku then rushes after Chitoge with the help of his bodyguards and also Marika, who helps him out of traffic jams, before her plane takes off and leaves for the United States. But again, what is called true love does have to get in the way. Raku and his bodyguards are confronted by Claude, who challenges Raku to prove his love for Chitoge at gunpoint. But Raku didn't budge and challenged Claude back to shoot his gun right at his head. With a cold stare, Claude then pulled the trigger and fired a gun that was not filled with bullets. Finally, Claude was convinced and that Raku really loved Chitoge and allowed him to chase her. Meanwhile, Chitoge, who had boarded her father's private jet, saw Raku running after her plane, which was still circling the runway before takeoff. In the cold, snowy night air, Raku kept chasing and calling out Chitoge's name, until finally the plane stopped and Chitoge got off the plane. Chitoge meant to mock Raku when she saw him, who had not taken off his Romeo costume, but she noticed Raku was very tired and there was a slight bruise on his face from being punched by Claude. Chitoge then said that she was not the girl that Raku was looking for all this time. Raku then confirmed it. However, Raku said that only with Chitoge, he felt very happy. The film ends by showing Raku expressing his love for Chitoge, which is met with ridicule by the girl and warm hugs and kisses on a cold snowy night.